Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be talking about artificial intelligence and its impact on education. Specifically, we'll be focusing on writing and the humanities.
Okay.
We've got a really fascinating opinion piece to dive into. It's called Burn It Down, a license for AI resistance.
Oh, I've heard of this one.
Yeah, it's written by Melanie Dussault, who's an associate professor of English.
Interesting.
She really takes a strong stance against using AI in writing education. We'll be exploring her arguments in depth. And to get a broader perspective, we'll also look at some counterarguments and some historical examples of how education has reacted to new technologies.
Sounds good.
So, Dussault's main argument in Burn It Down is that using AI to teach writing is unethical.
Okay.
She believes it really undermines the creative process of writing and allows tech companies to profit from basically dismantling what it means to write.
I see. Well, she's got a point. AI writing tools, they seem really advanced, but they're built on data that could be biased, incomplete even.
Right.
So it makes you wonder, can we really rely on these systems to teach and assess writing? Writing is so deeply human, you know?
Absolutely. And Dussault uses some powerful imagery to drive her point home. She compares faculty who embrace AI in their teaching to, and this is a quote, handmaidens of doom.
Wow, handmaidens of doom. That's pretty strong.
Yeah.
She's suggesting that by adopting these AI tools, educators are almost becoming part of a system that values efficiency and standardization over real thinking and creativity.
Exactly. And she also critiques the economic side of things. AI systems use a ton of energy. And then there are the monopolistic practices of the tech companies that develop them.
Right, right.
And what happens if there's another Silicon Valley bubble burst? Schools could end up relying on technology that's not even stable.
Yeah, that's a good point. She seems to think that all the money going into AI for writing instruction could be better spent on the things that really matter in education. Critical thinking, human connection, just the love of learning.
I think that's a key takeaway.
Yeah.
But of course, we need to look at the other side of the coin, too.
Yeah.
There are some pretty compelling counter-arguments to Dussault's position.
Of course. One of the biggest ones is that being good at AI is becoming essential for jobs these days.
That makes sense.
Proponents of AI argue that educators have a moral duty to prepare students for the future workforce. You know, give them the AI skills they need to succeed.
I could see that.
Another counter-argument is that resisting AI is like resisting progress in general. It's the idea that embracing new technology is how we stay ahead, and that rejecting it is like clinging to old ways that will hold students back.
Interesting.
And then some people actually argue that AI can boost creativity.
Really?
They believe that AI tools can open up new ways of expressing yourself and can help with brainstorming and idea generation.
So they could actually lead to a more dynamic creative process.
Exactly. So it's not as simple as saying AI is good or bad for creativity. It's more complicated than that.
For sure. To get a wider perspective on this whole debate, I think it's helpful to look back at history and see how education has dealt with technological changes in the past.
Great idea. There's actually a pretty consistent pattern of skepticism and resistance to new technologies in education.
Like what? What are some examples?
Well, even Socrates was critical of writing when it was first invented.
No way. Socrates.
Really? He was worried that it would weaken people's memories and make them less able to think critically.
Huh. It's funny how some of those same concerns are coming up now with AI.
Right. And then there was the printing press. That caused a huge uproar when it came along.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Educators and religious leaders were afraid of all the ideas that would start spreading and how it would disrupt the way knowledge was controlled.
Makes sense.
Even something as basic as the blackboard met with resistance.
Really? The blackboard.
Some teachers thought they were too much work to prepare and that they distracted students from their textbooks. And don't even get me started on calculators.
Oh, I bet.
People were worried that students would lose basic math skills and wouldn't be able to think for themselves.
So basically, fear and skepticism about new technology in education is nothing new. It's been happening for centuries.
Exactly. And here's the interesting thing. A lot of those technologies that were initially resisted eventually became essential parts of how we teach and learn.
That is interesting. So it makes you wonder, should we be completely resistant to AI? Or is there a way to find some kind of middle ground?
It really does make you think. I mean, Dussault brings up a good point. Humanities departments, they focus on critical thinking, creativity, you know?
Right.
So maybe they're not the best place to be teaching technical AI skills.
Yeah, maybe that should be happening somewhere else.
Exactly. But the big question is how to use AI in education in a way that's smart and ethical. How do we make sure it helps us instead of replacing us?
That's the key. Dussault actually uses a really interesting comparison in her article. She compares people who are pushing for AI to the lamplighters who lost their jobs when electric lights came along.
The lamplighters. I get it.
It makes you wonder, could writing teachers end up in the same boat?
It's a provocative thought for sure, but she's not suggesting we just give up and let AI take over.
No, definitely not.
Dussault's actually advocating for a different approach. Instead of trying to figure out how to cram AI into writing classes, she thinks we should focus on what humans do best.
Like what?
Like inspiring students to really engage with what they're reading, to think critically, and to express themselves in their own unique ways, through writing.
So basically, double down on the things that AI can't replicate.
Exactly. She suggests giving students assignments that really tap into their imaginations, things that AI would struggle to come up with.
Okay.
Like flash fiction, poetry, maybe even some kind of unconventional micro-essays.
I like it. Get them thinking outside the box.
Exactly. And another thing she stresses is the importance of human connection. That real feedback from a teacher can help students produce their best work.
Makes sense.
So it's not just about the assignment itself, it's about that relationship between the teacher and the student.
The teacher as a mentor, a guide.
Yeah, someone who can inspire them. And Dussault also questions the way we assess writing.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, she's not sure those standardized rubrics and all those outcomes-based evaluations can really capture what good writing is all about.
I can see that. They can be pretty limiting.
Especially when you're dealing with creative writing. It's so personal, so subjective.
Right. So when she says burn it down, maybe she's talking about getting rid of all those rigid structures that stifle creativity.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. She's advocating for a more playful approach to teaching, one that embraces the messiness of human expression.
That makes sense. So it's not that she's against technology altogether.
No, not at all. She recognizes that AI can be really helpful in other fields, like in medicine or scientific research.
But when it comes to writing and the humanities,
She's urging caution. She doesn't want us to outsource the really important human skills of thinking and creating.
to machines.
Especially machines that are trained on data that could be biased,
Right.
Her worry is that relying too much on AI will actually prevent us from developing original thinkers. And we need those original thinkers more than ever to navigate the future.
I agree. She actually quotes Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. He said, "Nobody is looking back at the past wishing they were a lamplighter."
Yeah, and Dussault finds that, quote, a bit troubling.
So.
Well, she thinks it shows a lack of awareness about the people who might get left behind in this rush towards AI.
The people who might not have the same opportunities to adapt.
Exactly. So it raises questions about fairness and access, making sure that everyone benefits from these technological advancements.
It's a really important point.
Yeah.
And it kind of flips that lamplighter analogy on its head.
How do you mean?
Well, maybe the people who are resisting AI are actually the ones who are keeping a certain kind of flame alive.
The flame of creativity and critical thinking.
Exactly. Protecting it in a world that's becoming increasingly dominated by machines.
And Dussault's calling on all writers, not just academics, to join this resistance, to use their voices to fight for a future where AI serves, not the other way around.
I love that. It's a powerful message.
Okay.
So we really have a choice to make here. Do we just accept that AI is going to be everywhere?
Or do we try to shape its role in a way that protects and even enhances what makes us human?
Dussault reminds us that teaching isn't just about information and skills. It's about fostering that love of learning, that curiosity that AI can't replicate.
And those are the qualities that we need to cultivate engaged citizens, people who can think for themselves, evaluate information, and contribute to society.
Well said. Burn it down definitely gives us a lot to think about.
It really does. It challenges us to really examine the future of education and ask ourselves, what role do we want AI to play in shaping the minds of future generations?
It's a question that goes way beyond the classroom. It's about the kind of society we want to build.
Absolutely. A society where technology helps us reach our full potential, or one where it limits our ability to think critically, be creative, and express ourselves.
The choice is ours.
It's a powerful call to action. When she says burn it down, she's not talking about destroying everything. It's more like a call for change, a transformation.
I see, like rebuilding from the ground up.
Yeah, exactly. Reimagining education in a way that puts human connection first, and creativity, critical thinking, all those things that are essential, even with AI becoming more and more present.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the big question we're left with is, what role do we want AI to play in the future of education? How can we use it in a way that's beneficial while still preserving what makes human learning so valuable?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The answers are going to shape not just how we teach and learn, but the kind of society we create. Will it be a society where technology helps us achieve our full potential, or one where it limits our ability to think for ourselves, be creative, and express ourselves authentically? It's a lot to consider.
It really is. And ultimately, the choice is ours. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the fascinating and complex world of AI in education.